pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. Here I am with my 2 cents worth on the third chunk of the Can You Forgive Steve Donoghue read-along. In other words, the third section of Anthony Trollope's novel Can You Forgive Her. I'm going to keep my comments brief. Monday night is a terrible night for me to make a video, but I want to get it done always on Monday night after watching Steve's. But I'm going to keep it short because I'm always exhausted on Monday. So yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add to what Steve said. He did a wonderful job as usual in kind of summarizing it and giving various impressions. But what I noticed kind of in retrospect in my first 2 weekly comments was that I didn't really talk at all about the Palliser side of the cast of characters, and this is book 1 of the Palliser novels, but so far I haven't found much to comment upon about the actual Pallisers. Plantagenet Palliser and Lady Glencora. I liked Glencora, but I didn't like her as much as many of you did. I didn't not like her, but I was quite taken with Alice, and things have really shifted for me in part 3. So I have quite a bit to say about the Pallisers. So let me just start with that. And I agree with Steve, this was a completely riveting page-turner of a section of chapters that just, it was unput-downable. It's vintage Trollope, right? And I have to say that the scene between Glencora and her husband after the party, when she confesses that she still loves Burgo and she doesn't love him, her husband, Plantagenet Palliser, and his reaction to that moved me almost to tears. I got all verklempt. And am I the only one? Like, Steve commented on that overall conversation as being really powerful, and I agree, but that section where he said to her what he said and made the offer to her that he did to give up his career and take her traveling and kindle for the first time a relationship between them. I was so moved by that. And I cannot think of another scene in all of 19th century literature that has ever moved me. So that was absolutely fascinating. I always think about what Oscar Wilde said about the death of Little Nell in Dickens' The Old Curiosity Shop. You'd have to have a heart of stone to read about the death of Little Nell without laughing, and that's why I hate Dickens. It's just mawkishly. Bleh. I like his humor, but the mawkishness just makes me puke. I hate Dickens. But I'm trying to think, in all of George Eliot that I've read, I haven't read all of her, but I've read a big chunk of her, or any of the Jane Austen stories, was I ever actually viscerally moved? I can't remember. Were you moved by this scene, and is that a unique thing, or has there been other scenes in Victorian literature that actually got you all verklempt? I'd be so curious to hear, because I was shocked that I was like, oh. So this is the thing, it's not a disagreement with Steve, but just maybe a point of clarification. Steve seemed to say that the Pallisers were a wealthy family. So Plantagenet is the heir to the dukedom of Omnium, and we've been to his place, that Matching Prior, is that the right? Matching Prior? He's no slouch, but also I do remember vividly in this chunk Lady Glencora getting so indignant with Mrs. Marsham when Mrs. Marsham says that no man likes to have his carriage out at night, and she just kind of, part of it is internal, but also she says they're my goddamn horses. It was not often that Lady Glencora made any allusion to her own property, or allowed anyone near her to suppose that she remembered the fact that her husband's great wealth was, in truth, her wealth. I kind of did a text search through the ebook and I couldn't find any reference. I think she comes from a gold mining family, very wealthy, but how rich is he, and how much does he need her the way that George needs Alice and everybody, all the other men seem to need? Burgo would have needed her. I couldn't find a reference to that. Can somebody enlighten me? Because I didn't think this passage fit well with what Steve was saying, but I probably missed something. So I'm just looking for some clarification, people. I also think, and I would agree with Britta rather than Steve, that Mr. Vavasor is kind of acquitting himself. You know, he's not a model father, but I think he's kind of making up for being a really crappy father in the past, the way that he's trying to guide her, and even in the perhaps asinine conspiracy that he entered into with Mr. Grey, he didn't have much. I guess he did have a little bit of a self-motivation, because if she loses all her money, they would lose the house, wouldn't they? But he's earning enough basically for, I think there is kind of a financial motivation. But I don't hate him. I think he's not a bastard. So yeah, I'm jumping all over the place, but I loved Lady Glencora the way that she was with Mrs. Marsham and Mr. Bott, and the whole scene at the party, Lady Monk's party, and the dancing and the sexuality, and the way that she confronted her husband that night and argued with him in the morning, and then for him to respond the way he did. I thought it was just beautiful. So I hope that part goes well. I'm kind of nervous what's going to happen in the final chunk between them, because I thought, yeah, Planty pal, you've redeemed yourself in my eyes. And I didn't have a really negative, just he was such a bland, boring guy, and kind of an old poop. I have to say that the Vavasors have kind of, I don't know where the Vavasor tale is going, and I'm starting to question Mr. Trollope's characterization here. I don't understand Alice at all anymore. What's going into her decisions about she's so stubborn about giving George the money, despite now having concluded that he's a dangerous jerk, and he's assaulted her, and she still insists, and why? I'm gonna give Mr. Trollope the benefit of the doubt, but I think, is this a good characterization? That doesn't really make sense to me. More than that, I am starting to feel quite a bit of disappointment in the way George Vavasor is being portrayed. I think that his character, he's just become a black villain. There's no more nuance. He's become a thug, abuser. He's a violent person. He's probably going to kill somebody in the novel, I guess. That's my prediction. The last nuance I saw in his character was just around the time before he actually became physically violent with anyone. And there was a moment of self-doubt about whether I think it was after Kate voiced her strong disapproval to him extracting money from Alice before they actually got married, that he had a moment of self-doubt. And that's the last nuance. After that, he's just turned black. And that's kind of maybe 19th century writing, but I was enjoying the nuances in him. And so now I'm just thinking, he's boring. I'm bored by the Vavasors. Except for maybe Kate. Kate is still interesting, and Alice's father. I'm curious as to whether he's going to continue to step up and maybe become a fully fledged real person by the end. But George and Alice, I'm kind of done with them. So I'm much more into Lady Glencora and her sharp tongue, and what's going to happen with her and her husband if they go to Europe, or what's going to happen next. And just to finish off with it, the comic plot is just wonderful. And so Mr. Cheesacre and Aunt Greenough and Captain Belfield. And just this one quote about Mr. Cheesacre just cracked me up. He's getting ready for another dinner party or something with Aunt Greenough. He clothed his nether person in knickerbockers, with tight, leathern, bright-coloured gaiters round his legs, being conscious of certain manly graces and symmetrical proportions, which might, as he thought, stand him in good stead. Oh my! Thanks for watching.